Hello children, I'm very happy to welcome you for this week lesson. Our topic is I cannot remember my mother. I cannot remember my mother. Our author is Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore wrote this poem, I cannot remember my mother. My Mother is the poem written by Rabindranath Tagore. His poem reveals his deep emotional bonding that the poet had with his mother. Now let's know about poet Rabindranath Tagore. His lifetime 1861 to 1941. He is popularly known as Vishwakavi and Gurudev. He was the founder of Shantiniketan, an experimental school. He is one of the Indians' greatest poets. He is a composer of the Indian national anthem Jana Gana Mana. His works are loved for their lyrical beauty and spiritual depth, reflecting a love for nature and his homeland. He received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913 for his collection of poems Gitanjali. Let's have a look at the poem, children. I can't remember my mother. Rabindranath Tagore remembered his mother. That means he cannot remember physical appearance of his mother. The poem reveals the deep emotional bonding that the poet had with his mother. Why? Because he lost his mother when he was very young. Lost his mother quite early childhood. This poem is nostalgic. 1. The poet is lost is nostalgia. What is nostalgia? Nostalgia is an abstract noun and it refers to the memories of the past. So, if you lost this nostalgia or memories of past, what are you called? You are called as nostalgic. Nostalgic is adjective. The poet Rabindranath Tagore written this poem in nostalgic. He lost his childhood memories because he lost his mother in his quite early childhood. He is unable to recollect what she looked like, or he doesn't remember any specific detail of her physical appearance. However, there are certain descriptions he uses in order to associate with her. There are certain things which remind him of his mother. There are various imaginaries used in this poem. Do you know what is an imaginary? Imaginary is used by most of the poets. It refers to any description that triggers up your sense or any of your five senses, then it is said to be imaginary. Let's take an example. You went to a park, you see a mother and a child. That is visual memory. When you see a mother and a child, you immediately go back or you get a flashback of your memories. You go back to your nostalgia or you become nostalgic. You think you and your mother. You recollect how she looked, what she used to do with you. Imaginary that does not necessarily to be visual description. It might be auditory or it might be related to a scent, taste. Let's take an example of fragrance. Let's say you have unique fragrance which you use in your childhood. So when you smell that fragrance, it immediately take back to your flashback. So here the scent acting like an imaginary. Similarly, the poet has used various such imaginary which reminded him of his mother. There are three stanzas in this poem. It's not a large one. All these three stanzas starts, I cannot remember my mother. He lost his mother quite early. He cannot remember her. But there are various things which remind him of her. Let's read the poem and understand about the various imaginary which is used by poet Rabindranath Tagore. So shall we? I'll read it, the first stanza for you. I can't remember my mother. Only sometimes in the midst of my play, a tune seems to over my playthings, the tune of some song that she used to hum while rocking my cradle. Now the poet starts the line, I can't remember my mother. But when does he able to recollect her? What is the situation? Well, only sometimes in the middle of his play, when he sees his plaything, here the plaything or visual imaginary used by the poet. When he sees them, he immediately reminded of the tune his mother used to sing for him while rocking his cradle. Probably the tune his mother sang was a lullaby in order to make him sleep in his childhood. Now let's move on to the second stanza. I cannot remember my mother. But when in early autumn morning the smell of Shuli flowers floats in the air, the scent of the morning service in the temple comes to me as the scent of my mother. So in the second stanza, the poet is unable to recollect the scent of his mother. He is unable to describe what smelt like. So there are various imaginaries again which reminds him of his mother's scent. What are those imaginaries? Well, one of them is the Shuli flower. Shuli flowers are very beautiful looking flowers. They are usually seen during autumn seasons. They are white petal flowers with bright orange stems. They have the scent fragrance, sweet fragrance that remains in the air. The smell remains in the air for a certain period. The smell is very pleasant. The poet says every time he smells these flowers, he was reminded of his mother's scent. Similarly, the scent of the morning service in the temple. What does the line says? The smell which comes from the temple, he reminded of his mother. Probably his mother must have worn the Shuli flowers in her head, or she must have plucked the Shuli flowers to offer in the temple. So all these scents take an imaginary. Now let's move on to the third stanza. I can't remember my mother. Only when from my bedroom window I send. Only when from my bedroom window I send. my eyes into the blue of the distant sky. I feel that the stillness of my mother's gaze my on my face has spread all over the sky. So that poet again repeats the line, I cannot remember my mother. Here the poet is unable to recollect the way she looked at him. He is unable to describe the way she used to gaze at Tagore. However, the vast expanse of the deep blue sky. However, when he goes near the window and looks at the vast expanse of the deep blue sky, it reminds mother is keeping a loving watch on him. It reminds him of his mother's gaze. He feels as if his mother is keeping a loving watch on him. The stillness of the sky is again an imaginary used in this poem, which associate with Tagore's mother gaze. The way she used to look at Tagore, when looks at the sky, she feels as if his mother is gazing at him through the heaven, keeping a loving watch on him. Through this poem, we understand the deep-rooted emotional bonding of the poet with his mother. The fact he lost his mother quite early, she impacted him a lot. I hope you all understand the meaning of the poem. The fact he lost his mother quite early, she impacted him a lot. I hope all understand the meaning of the poem. I will meet you in the next class. Bye then.